రోడ్ దగ్గరికి మధ్య మధ్యలో అమ్మ దాంట్లో చెక్ చేయి. అమ్మ దాంట్లో, అమ్మమ్మ దాంట్లో, అమ్మమ్మ దాంట్లో చెక్ చేయి.
Pawan? Pawan?
Hello, sir. Sir.
Yes. Yeah. Are we all set to go? It's time now.
Yes, sir. Please. Yes, sir.
Wonderful.
Yes.
Start now. Very good afternoon to all the participants, all the distinguished guests, and our distinguished speakers. We take pride in organizing this national webinar on celebrating democracy. On the occasion of the birth anniversary of late Sri S. Jaipal Reddy, on this 16th January 2021. This program is being organized by S. Jaipal Reddy Memorial Foundation. Jaipal Reddy Memorial Foundation is based in Hyderabad, working towards propagation of the ideals set forth by late Sri S. Jaipal Reddy. He was a great statesman and an outstanding parliamentarian. Sri Jaipal Reddy has been one of the strongest proponents of democracy. He followed and practiced democracy in letter and spirit. And he has also written a lot and spoken about strengthening democracy in India. The foundation is run by the near and dear ones of late Sri Jaipal Reddy ji. And they have been propagating the democratic values in the country with the help of several programs, organizing several competitions for the youth in order to promote the ideals of democracy. Recently, on 15th September 2020, we have organized an International Democracy Day. And on that occasion, we have also announced a national level article writing competition on the theme of democracy for students to think about and to innovate and to strengthen the democratic values in the country. And in the continuation of these efforts, today we are organizing this webinar on democracy. This is to celebrate democracy. Why we need to celebrate democracy? There are lots of reasons to celebrate. India is the largest democracy in the world. And India stood for the democratic values from the beginning. Even historically, if we trace the occasions in different countries, there were several kingdoms, several empires. And the democratic way of election of the people, even within the villages, sabhas were created. Historically, these were running. And India has been the pioneer in promoting the democracy in the world. Since independence, India has been steadfast in protecting the democratic values. Our Constitution of India starts with the words, "We the people of, the country." So the we the people have the source of this democracy. The democracy, in fact, represents the will of the people. Democracy has been practiced in several countries. There has been ups and downs. There has been difficulties in promoting and practicing democracy in the world. In many countries, there are struggles. But this has been identified as one of the best government systems. And India has been an example in this regard. And we are living in different times, and we need to promote democracy in our country too. And we are very fortunate to have two great speakers who have always worked for democracy. Sri Mr. S.Y. Qureshi, former Election Commissioner of India, the Chief Election Commissioner of India, who was on the forefront to uphold the democratic values and practiced and implemented how the free and fair elections can ensure democracy. And Sri N. Ravi, Chairman of Kasturi and Sons Limited, the publisher of Hindu, who has been always champion of democratic values, and he has written a lot about the Constitution and the democracy. Very fortunate to have both of you, sir, here. We welcome on behalf of Jayapal Reddy Foundation for this program. And we are also joined by Sri Dilip Reddy, former State Information Commissioner, for implementing the Right to Information Act. And he is a very well-renowned, a scholar, journalist, and the forerunner of implementing the information in the state of Andhra Pradesh, and that really strengthens democracy. So we're going to listen to these stalwarts. We are joined by the several dignitaries. We are also joined by the family members of Sri Jayapal Reddy Garu, wife of Sri Jayapal Reddy Garu is here with us. We welcome her and the other dignitaries for the program. This program is organized in this manner. After this introduction, we will hear Sri R. Dilip Reddy, former State Information Commissioner. He will speak for 10 minutes, and he'll be speaking about the contributions made by Sri Jayapal Reddy and the book written by him on the title 10 Ideologies, the Great Asymmetry Between Agrarianism and Industrialism. And he will throw light on the ideas promoted by Sri Jayapal Reddy. This will be followed by our honorable guest, Sri S.Y. Qureshi, former Chief Election Commissioner of India. Then this will be followed by Sri N. Ravi, our honorable guest, the chairman at Kasturi and Sons and the publisher of a Hindu, the reputed national daily of the country. Then we will move on to vote of thanks by Sri S. Anand Reddy of S. Jayapal Reddy Memorial Foundation. So this is the scheme in which we are going to move ahead. I request all the dignitaries to kindly share your views, because we are living in difficult times now. The lockdown due to COVID has really tested all our capacities. The countries are struggling. The economy is struggling. The people are in great difficulties. The countries are now thinking that how we will deliver for the betterment of the people. There are lots of chaos going on in different countries. But fortunately in India, because of the deep roots that we have in democratic values, we are able to move ahead with great confidence. I request our honorable speakers to kindly link it with the difficult times that we are facing and also to provide some solutions on how we can strengthen and promote democracy in these modern times. Now, with these few words, I request Sri R. Dilip Reddy, former State Information Commissioner, to speak on the contributions of Sri Jaipal Reddy Garu and about the book written by him on 10 ideologies. A small brief introduction I would like to give about Sri R. Dilip Reddy. He has served as a State Information Commissioner of Andhra Pradesh Information Commission for 5 years. And he has toured the state of Andhra Pradesh extensively and also addressed more than 1,300 meetings on right information to explain this law to the people of different, strata. As a Commissioner of Right Information, he has delivered so many judgments on transparency, information service matters, quasi-judicial issues in administration. He was a foremost journalist with E-Nadu. He headed the chief of a political bureau at Hyderabad and Delhi bureau. He is presently executive editor of Sakshi Telugu Daily. He is also serving as principal of Sakshi School of Journalism. And he is also founding president of Greens Alliance for Conservation of Eastern Ghats, GRACE. He is a renowned environmentalist also. So we welcome you, sir, to share your few words. Over to Sri Dilip Reddy.
So, namaste. Thank you, Professor Lakshmanan Pushpakumar ji, and distinguished guests of today's national webinar, S.Y. Qureshi ji and N. Ram ji, and all the participants who are taking part in this webinar. Good evening, one and all. Let me congratulate this S. Jaipal Reddy Memorial Trust for organizing these sorts of programs, deliberations. Previously also they conducted a similar national level seminar, and presently they came with celebrating the democracy. It's definitely celebrating democracy is appropriate on the occasion of a legendary political personality of this country, in the memory of S. Jaipal Reddy Garu on his 79th birth anniversary, because he stood for entire his life for the cause of democracy. He is popularly known in this Telugu space also as a person stands with the political values and politics he desired for the people-centric always. And he was symbolized for the protection of secularism in this country. Fortunately, I had an occasion to do his interview when he moved from alternate political dais to Congress party again, homecoming. Then I posed a question to him and he answered that, you try to understand my coming back to Congress by putting my entire career at stake just for the cause of protecting secularism against pacifistic forces in this country. That was his stand for the secularism as far as which is the core element of democracy is concerned. That's why I try to connect this concept of celebrating democracy, how linked with the great political personality of S. Jaipal Reddy. That is the very striking point. Telugu space, Jaipal Reddy is popularly known for his withstanding with all democratic values and knowledge, filling the knowledge into the political and legislature system. That is one significant point to note. The democracy is really has been explained well by Jayapal Reddy Garu in his book of 10 ideologies, which has been published in English long back, and that again translated into Telugu, and recently a Telugu book also came into the public domain by giving due respect to the concept of democracy, how this democracy is the worldwide accepted finest form of governance so far. And he also explained in his book, by keeping democracy as one of the 10 ideologies, he said that democracy, right from the many civilizations, almost the known human history of 2,500 years, how it step by step evolved despite of many aberrations and many shortcomings, how democracy is in a strong position today to deliver the equality before the law to the all human race, by giving equal opportunities with the inclusive growth perspectives. The practices may be failed to deliver services, but conceptually the democracy is a great thing and has been accepted by many across the globe. And moreover, this very particular coinage of celebrating democracy should happen every minute, should happen in every moment, because the inspiration it gives, the oxygen it gives for the governance in this world, in the various countries, for the survival of human race in this conflicting interest. And as you mentioned, Professor Pushpa Kumar ji, we are really in the odd times which we are passing through, a different and a difficult time. In this particular time, the concept of democracy, and not by sitting and pinpointing certain loopholes, but celebrating the democracy is definitely a great causation here to mention, because it consists of many core issues like civil rights, freedom of the people, and the liberty of the people, equality before law, and equal opportunities for the people, and inclusive growth concepts by the consecutive governments of different nations. With this basic idea of democracy is not the new thing. Even if we go back 2,500 years back, whether it is Greece or the Rome, or even in Indian context, if we go back to the Buddhist time, Janapas like Vaishali and many, how they shown the basic core principle of democracy by giving the people due respect and recognition and taking their opinion into consideration. While even Indian mythology, like Ramayana and Mahabharata, if we go back to the almost 5,000 years back, in Ramayana, after killing of Ravana, when Rama came back to Ayodhya, Valmiki says that he was inquiring with his team of ministers that is Bharata following the words and the advices given by your council of ministers in toto, or he is seeking the public opinion to fine-tune such suggestions given by the council of ministers. So what more good governance and the great democratic practice we can expect than that of inculcating idea of taking the people opinion while molding the programs. That is the great example we can quote by going back to the Indian mythological background. And recently our Prime Minister Modi mentioned what Uttirameru, a small village in Tamil Nadu, which is 90 kilometers away from Chennai, which has been visited by former Prime Minister Rajiv Gandhi. That village, way back 1100 years, 920, there was inscriptions on the walls of the Mantapa that how village administration was taking place in those days of 1920, you imagine. In that, how the selection of candidates and voting power and the disqualification of the elected representatives if they become the wrongdoers, and taking the people opinion and village sabha's decision for the betterment of the village. Such all many aspects which are the fundamentals of democracy has been given in that particular village. It shows how great this concept of democracy has been defined right from the beginning. Jaipal Reddy Garu exclusively in his book, while giving some notes in his, rather than the main theme of 10 ideologies, in his preface writing, by in his introduction, what compelled him to come out with that great book of 10 ideologies. The political scenario prevailing in the country today, under the contrast situations prevailing, and the political thought process taking place, and priorities how changed, and how these all factors prompted him to go with that book. That book has been beautifully emphasized the perspectives all along the time, all across the world. That is one thing. And I would like to say, before the distinguished eminent speakers will show some fine path for us in this conflict situation, I would like to bring to the notice of the August gathering that all these days we respected the democracy with a people-centric, as great definition has been given by none other than Abraham Lincoln, by saying that for the people, of the people, by the people. Over a period of time, due to various factors and reasons, that definition has been uprooted, like not OF, it became OFF, of the people. Not FOR, but it became FAR, for the people, and not by BUY the people at the time of election and do what comes to your mind for the rest of 5 years. In this context, not the people alone, as far as these new world order and the globalization for last 30 years after 90s, in this context, we must take not the people alone, even the resources, which are the very much component of this planet Earth, which is totally different from other planets in this solar system. We must give due respect to all these resources. By keeping that in mind, we must look at environmental perspective also, which is one of the concept given by the Jaipal Reddy Garu in his 10 ideologies, that what this environmentalism also. In that context particularly, I would like to share with this, the earth systemic administration and governance also needed the hour. Otherwise, for example, United Nations, by keeping all the member nations in mind, they gave certain targets for the sustainable development goals. In order to achieve those goals, not the people alone, we must protect our natural resources for this generation, by the next generation. One among the 17 goals of the 16 is peace, judiciary, and strengthening of the institutions. Strengthening of institutions is the main causation for the saving of democracy. So, by keeping that in mind, before concluding, I would like to quote particularly what Jaipal Reddy Garu, in his book of 10 ideologies, he quoted that despite of all this shortcomings, he says, I quote, despite repeated and continual setbacks in various parts of the world, democracy continues to have an undiminished appeal for people. Its popularity compels all sorts of rulers to promise electoral democracy. It is true that elections, when held, are often rigged and people are swayed through diversionary ethnic slogans, but democracy as a political system is universally acknowledged, unquote. This was the great concept of Jaipal Reddy Garu while promoting this idea of democracy, that is more relevant today to keep in our mind for celebrating democracy. With these few words, I would extend my heartful thanks for the organizers and trust for providing me this opportunity to share some of my views with this August gathering. Thank you, one and all.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much, Sri or Dilip Reddy Garu, for very succinctly explaining the contributions and the writings and thinkings of Sri late Jaipal Reddy. You have very rightly also mentioned about the Uttaramerur inscriptions in Tamil Nadu. Yeah, this is really, they are exhibiting the fundamentals of democracy, how that thrived in the country, and that still flourishes here in our great nation. Thank you very much. I know that Srimati Lakshmi Jaipal Reddy, wife of late Sri Jaipal Reddy Garu, is here. She could recollect how when he was alive, how he was able to touch the hearts of the people. And he was always there telling that if you want to strengthen democracy, you have to strengthen people. So that was his mantra, and she could, I think, very well recollect this. Thank you very much, ma'am, for your presence here. We are really honored to have you here. Now we are moving to our next distinguished guest, Sri S.Y. Qureshi ji, our former Chief Election Commissioner of India. I will introduce Sri Qureshi ji with a few words. Dr. S.Y. Qureshi ji was an IAS officer of 1971 batch. He has held several high positions. After holding several strategic and key positions, he became 17th Chief Election Commissioner of India. A Stephenian, PhD in social work. Dr. Qureshi is a multifaceted scholar, a polyglot who speaks German, Persian, Arabic, besides Hindi and English. And he has held positions like Secretary, the Government of India, Ministry of Youth Affairs, Sports, Director General of National AIDS Control Organization, Additional Secretary and Financial Advisor, Ministry of Steel, Director General, Doordarshan. So like that, his contribution is varied. As Chief Election Commissioner, he introduced a number of innovative electoral reforms, and he established an expenditure control division and a voter education division in the commission. He also founded India International Institute of Democracy and Election Management to professionalize election management and share it with the emerging democracies of the world. Over 70 countries have received training under this organization. And he is also a recipient of several awards, just to name a few. Nehru Fellow Award from Nehru Children's Museum, Calcutta. Secular India Harmony Award in 1988. Silver Elephant, the highest national award of Indian Scouts and Guides given by the President of India. We are very happy to have you here, sir, to speak on celebrating democracy. We very warmly welcome you to share your views. Over to Sri S.Y. Qureshi ji. Pawan, is there any problem in the connection?
सर का वो blank चले गया है. We are checking, sir. 1 second, please.
Oh, kindly check it. Yeah. And in the meantime, I will also tell some of the other achievements of Sri Qureshi. He has been a member of the Board of Advisors of International IDEA. This is Institute of Democracy and Electoral Assistance in Stockholm. And he is holding this position since 2012. He is also member of the advisory committee to assist and advise the Global Commission on Elections, Democracy and Security, headed by Kofi Annan at that time. A very versatile scholar. So we are very happy to hear him today.
Sir has rejoined the call.
Yes.
Thank you.
Sir, can you hear us, Sri S.Y. Qureshi? Pawan, can you hear him? I'm sorry for the interruption due to technical issues.
Sir, we can see, sir, but we are unable to hear.
Whether the audio is on?
Sir, microphone is muted, sir.
So please ask him to switch it on. Or shall we move on to first Sri N. Ravi sir first, then go to Qureshi ji, if sir permits.
Sure, I am fine. I am fine with that.
Wonderful, sir. Yeah, please just.
I think Qureshi ji is not able to.
Yes.
Okay.
With audio.
Pawan, yeah, please
Sir.
have a word with sir that we will have him next, and we will first request our Mr. N. Ravi sir to speak. Okay.
Yes, sir. Yes.
So please tell him.
Yes.
Then in the meantime we can resolve the problem. Then we can have him. Okay. Sir, with your kind permission, we invite you to speak. I first introduce yourself, sir. Mr. Ravi sir. Participants, we are going to hear Sri N. Ravi, the chairperson of Kasturi and Sons Limited, the reputed, the press in the country, the publisher of the Hindu and other publications of a Hindu group. He is former editor-in-chief of a Hindu and has been in journalism since 1972. And since Hindu is part of our life, and I remember that the day I started to read newspaper, I started with the Hindu, and our thinkings, our thoughts, everything is shaped by our lives is shaped by such a great quality newspaper that they bring out. Mr. Ravi holds a master's degree in economics and a degree in law. I'm very happy to have you here, sir. I'm coming from law faculty, Delhi University. And having you here with a law background and economics background, it really gives me immense pleasure. And he was also a fellow at Harvard Law School in 2000. And he was also Shorenstein's fellow at Kennedy School of Government in Harvard University in 2004. And Mr. Ravi has been on the lead in shaping and improving the quality of the national newspaper, The Hindu. And he joined the newspaper Hindu in 1972. He served as a reporter, lead writer, Washington correspondent, deputy editor, associate editor, all kinds of positions. And his contribution is immense to the newspaper. He was the editor from 1991 to 2011 and chief editor-in-chief from 2013 to 15. He covered several international conferences and traveled with prime ministers and presidents to cover international summits. And his special interests are in writing, including on constitutional and political issues, economic policy, international economy, free speech, human rights, and India-US relationship. He is the recipient of several professional awards, including G.K. Reddy Memorial Award, Bread Role Model Award and was awarded an honorary doctorate by Sri Venkateswara University, Tirupati. We are very fortunate to have you here amidst us, sir. We request you to kindly share your views on celebrating democracy. Thank you.
Good evening, and thank you, Dr. Pushpakumar.
Yes.
I'm indeed honored to be speaking in this memorial event to celebrate the contribution of one of India's outstanding political leaders and parliamentarians, Shri Jaipal Reddy, and that too in the company of Shri Qureshi, who was the custodian of democratic values in India, both in and out of office, Shri Dilip Reddy, Dr. Pushpakumar, Mrs. Jaipal Reddy, family, friends, and admirers of Shri Jaipal Reddy. In fact, talking of Mrs. Jaipal Reddy, I cannot resist reading out this dedication in the book to her by Shri Jaipal Reddy. And I quote, "To my wife Lakshmi, who has contributed to my career through her drudgery for over half a century without laying claim to my time or fame." Actually, this is typical Jaipal Reddy. A sentiment, unusual sentiment expressed with great love and sensitivity. I had met Sri Jaipal Reddy on a few occasions and, true to his reputation, found him to be deeply reflective and sensitive with a ready wit and extreme courtesy. Much of my acquaintance with him, though, had been through reports of his speeches and announcements and from accounts of other political leaders, all of whom had nothing but praise and admiration for him. And of course, from reading the book 10 Ideologies, it opened my eyes to many new approaches and insights. This is an extraordinary book, written with a breadth of understanding and vision and clarity of thought that few in public life could summon. It draws upon his deep, lifelong learning and experience as a parliamentarian and holder of public office, never swerving from the principles that he held dear. Among the qualities that stand out in his long public life are absolute integrity that came out most dramatically in his handling of the petroleum ministry, which he gave up rather than compromise with his values, his uncompromising love for liberty and democratic values, and opposition to arbitrary power, his passion for philosophical and political ideas and concepts, his advocacy of modern education, and of course, as Mr. Dilip Reddy said earlier, his tolerance and secular outlook. It is fitting that celebrating democracy should have been chosen as the theme for this memorial event. In this book, Sri Jaipal Reddy notes that while several independent nations lapsed into autocracy and dictatorship, Indian democracy remains strong. He finds explanations for Indian democracy surviving in terms of the enlightened aspect of British colonialism or the syncretic, all-encompassing nature of Hindu religion inadequate. Interestingly, he picks on Gandhian non-violence, toleration and compassion as the most convincing reason for India remaining a democracy. Non-violence and democracy are closely tied, and we have noted that violence could be very disruptive of the democratic process, as seen very recently in the aftermath of the US elections, when the Capitol was stormed by a riotous mob. Democracy brings within its fold many aspects, all of which seem equally important. The choice of public office holders, the rights and liberties the people enjoy, the instruments of the state that protect the people and the rights and the attitude of the people and public office holders on the democratic spirit. From ancient times, democracy has been seen as a rule by the people as a whole or by representatives chosen by the people. As Abraham Lincoln famously put it, it is a government of the people, by the people, and for the people. Though Mr. Dilip Reddy had modified the terms to suit the current context. Free and fair elections by which people choose their representatives is thus an essential element of democracy. In India, we have been fortunate in having a well-designed and refined electoral system thanks to the efforts and foresight of men like Sri Qureshi and successive chief election commissioners. As a result, not only have successive elections been conducted smoothly, India is even able to offer assistance to other nations on the mode and logistics of conducting elections. All is not perfect though, and the influence of money power still remains a corrupting influence. While the blatant use and show of money power has been curbed, the surreptitious use of money, including outright bribing of voters, remains rampant in some parts of the country. The search for remedies continues, but suggestions such as state funding of elections have remained non-starters, largely because of the lack of public funds and the want of an acceptable formula for distributing such funding among the parties, which are too numerous both nationally and in the states. Electoral democracy, while important, is not all. The content of a democratic society in terms of dignity, liberty, equality, and justice would be equally important. By and large, there is a large measure of democratic freedoms available, though there are some deeply problematic areas. The enumeration of freedoms in the chapter on fundamental rights in the Constitution is well known. The Supreme Court has, through its judgment, expanded the scope of the fundamental rights to take in new rights. Thus, the right to life of dignity beyond bare existence, the right to education, and the right to privacy have been added to the list through judicial pronouncements, leading all these into the constitutional right to life as spelled out in the Constitution. Among the democratic freedoms, the rights that have come under strain in the recent period have been the right to personal liberty and the freedom of expression. The use of the sedition law, the Indian Penal Code, has seen a curtailment of both freedom of speech and of personal liberty. Not just the states, but even the center has reached out to the sedition law to curb dissenting voices, despite the Supreme Court ruling that unless there's open advocacy of violence, critical speech would not amount to sedition. The criminal defamation law, as well as the power of courts to punish for contempt, have also acted to shrink the space for free speech. The most recent case of Prashant Bhushan illustrates the reach of this restriction. Even cartoonists and comedians have been arraigned for contempt of court by some people and taken up by an oversensitive judiciary. The courts have been the guardians of people's rights from the encroachment of people's rights from the executive and legislative overreach. Here, the record of the judicial institution has been patchy. For instance, the Supreme Court has been inordinately tardy in taking up cases relating to the detention in Kashmir or lockdown in the state. While the court has pronounced that the right to personal liberty is most valuable, bail applications have been routinely delayed. While the executive and the legislature can be expected to push the boundaries of their authority, the judiciary as an institution seems to have slipped somewhat from its protective role. Coming finally to that difficult to define democratic spirit, it is clear that laws and institutions are only as good as the people who work them. And for the proper working of the democratic system, a spirit of mutual respect, toleration, and playing by the rules of the game, both written and unwritten, would be necessary. Instances such as the Citizenship Amendment Act and the sudden proliferation of anti-love jihad laws has strained the secular and tolerant democratic spirit. Here, I could do no better than quote Sri Jaipal Reddy, and I quote, "A majoritarian hubris or minoritarian nemesis can spell danger even now to Indian democracy, as either could jeopardize the consensus of Gandhian nationalism." I would not want to exaggerate. Despite these aberrations, though, democracy remains strong, personal liberties are largely intact, and institutions are by and large responsive, though there's a great deal of room for improvement on all these fronts. And in the making of Indian democracy, we also celebrate the substantial contribution of Sri Jaipal Reddy by his exemplary and selfless service in public offices. I am indeed honored to be part of this celebration of democracy in memory of Sri Jaipal Reddy.
I'm sorry, yeah. Thank you very much, sir, for these very enlightening words. Such a pleasure listening to you. You have very rightly connected the constitutional vision that we have in the country under Article 21 to deliver right to life and human dignity. Both could not be possible if we do not have strong democracy. You have very rightly linked. And you also stated that we get the kind of a government depending on the people. The people get what they deserve. So if we have to strengthen democracy, we have to strengthen people. It's the right message you have given. We will definitely work for it, and we will spread this message among the youth and the people. Thank you so much, sir, for your kind time and valuable points that you have shared with us. Now, we are very happy to say that Sri S.Y. Qureshi is, joined with us now. I have introduced Sri Qureshi. Now I request him to, share his valuable inputs with the audience.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Dr. Pushpa Kumar. Although it would have been better if I had spoken before Mr. Ravi. He is so scholarly. I feel very humbled and small after speaking after him. But let me share my personal experiences. First of all, my congratulations to Jaipal Reddy Trust for keeping his memory alive. Besides celebrating democracy, we are also celebrating his glorious life. He was a great parliamentarian. He was a great human being. Although I never worked under him, he could have been my minister in some ministry or the other. But somehow, I don't know how and where we met, and he became very affectionate to me, and I became very fond of him. And that relationship continued till he lived. And I'm glad that his family has kept me as a member of your family, even after his departure. Now, we are celebrating the democracy, and this is the right time, because a week later is 25th of January, which is designated now as National Voters' Day. Very few people knew that the Election Commission of India was born a day before India was born as a republic. And so we thought in 2010 that we will celebrate the Foundation Day of Election Commission on every 25th of January. We had organized, we were celebrating the Diamond Jubilee of India's Election Commission in 2010, and where about 35 countries of the world, the chief election commissioners of 35 countries had come, and we shared our experiences and the kind of respect they have for India and India's electoral system made us really proud. And they demanded that India should keep this leadership, and every year we should organize this meeting. So we organized the valedictory function again in 2011, where again about 35 people came. Some of them were common, some were different, and they suggested that we should make it an annual feature. I mentioned it to Dr. Manmohan Singh, the Prime Minister, but they dismissed it in just one sentence. He says, familiarity breeds contempt. I mean, having too many of these will probably not be a good idea. So we dropped the idea of that global annual conference, and yet we organized an international conference on this occasion where 10-15 countries, particularly of SAARC region, our neighborhood, and others, they come, which keeps our contact alive with them. Now, 25th of January, 26th of January, our constitution was promulgated, came into force. We introduced the universal adult franchise from day one. Now, we might take it for granted, but the fact that USA took 144 years to give equal voting rights to women, and here was a poor country with 84% illiteracy, driven by the social divisions, suffering the pangs of partition, having 565 princely states. And when we adopted democracy, the Western world was aghast. They thought we have gone mad. How will they run democracy, these guys with so much of illiteracy, so much of poverty? But we proved the prophets of doom wrong, because our very first election was a great success. That was the biggest election in world history and was a great election. And in that context, it is worthwhile to remember Mr. Sukumar Sen. He was an ICS officer. At that point, we had not conducted any election. We had no machinery, no experience. Yet he put together this entire team and conducted a fantastic election. Now, these days, we are very upset when we hold elections in 6, 7, and 9 phases. Do you know in how many phases he conducted his election, the first election? 68 phases. But that was fine, because he used the same machinery which he developed small level. He took them from one place to the other. And finally, what he produced was historic. And my estimate is that even today, 80 to 85% of the elections that we conduct today is his legacy, what he did. Of course, there have been improvements later on, which is very natural. Now, India I have heard many times that India is one of the largest democracies, and I also used to say the same thing. Till it occurred to me to see exactly how large are we. Then we found that we are larger than every continent. We have a bigger election than all 50 countries of Europe put together, all 54 countries of Africa put together, or 43 countries of North and South America put together, or the entire Commonwealth, 52 countries put together. We are larger. In fact, each one of them is about 50 to 60% of us. We are 90 countries rolled into one. And we not only in terms of numbers of voters, but complexities of 90 countries rolled into one. Every problem in these 90 countries or anywhere in the world, we have it plenty. Tribal, communal, social tensions, geographical problems, everything, you name it, and India has it plenty. And despite that, we have been conducting very, very credible elections. Transition of power from one party to the other has always been very smooth. We have seen losing prime minister or a losing chief minister offering his chair to the winner with folded hands, with no bickering. In my lectures, I show one picture of Himachal Pradesh where a losing chief minister and the winning chief ministers are sitting together and laughing, and with such bonhomie of the best friend, because the loser trusted the election, that he has not been cheated, unlike Donald Trump, who is making a spectacle of himself and creating very bad precedent for democracy. Here in India, the poor country, the backward country, is a model for people to learn from. Now, in this great work that the Election Commission does, the role of the constitution framers has been phenomenal. They visualize an institution which will be fiercely independent and totally neutral. And just through 6 articles of the Constitution, they created the most powerful election commission in the world. Yet, having said all that, we also call our democracy a festival of democracy. But some people started criticizing us, when Mr. T.N. Session onward, we started enforcing the model code of conduct with a heavy hand. And when, restrictions were put on the election rallies, where 1,000 cars used to go, if they were restricted to 10, where flags on your houses and your offices, they were banned because sometimes the opposition will come and forcibly put a flag on you and there will be fights. So we thought it is best to do away with this altogether. So we were accused of killing the festival of democracy. No, festival of democracy is not the noise and chaos that it makes. Festival is when people turn out and vote. And that is when we set up the election voter education division. In fact, when I took over as CEC, I gave myself 2 challenges. One was the money power, the other was the electoral apathy, particularly of the so-called educated people who never voted. Now, if you have not voted, you have no moral right to sit in your drawing rooms and criticize the government. Oh, sab neta chor hain, sab beeman hai, and now you guys have not bothered to go out and vote on a day which is declared a holiday, and then you criticize the government. You have no moral right. So, in any case, through voter education, we were able to persuade people to come out and vote. There used to be a demand that there should be compulsory voting. Now, compulsion and democracy don't go together. Your right to vote includes your right not to vote. In fact, the very famous judgment, the Nota judgment, has, very interestingly, I was very happy to hear that Mr. Ravi is a wizard of law. He did it from Harvard. One very interesting point which came out of that judgment was, in successive judgments, Supreme Court has held that the right to vote is not your constitutional right. It is a statutory right. But your right not to vote was elevated through that judgment to your fundamental right. That is a part of your right of expression, free speech, and if you don't want to vote, you're right. So, in such a situation, to make it compulsory, compulsion and democracy, as I said, don't go together. We were told that Australia, Singapore, they have compulsory voting. Why don't we start? Well, Australia is small. We had 4 Australias between 2 elections. And Singapore is the size of Karol Bagh. You want us to learn something from Singapore, which is not even a democracy actually, which is an authoritarian regime. Now, at the time, I spoke to my counterpart in Australia once, that everybody talks of Australia. How is your experiment of compulsory voting working? He says, very badly. I said, why? He says, we have a $20 fine for not voting, and to collect that $20, we end up spending $2,000 and 2-3 years of correspondence and litigation. And I said, after all that, how much? Then it must be 100% turnout. After all, it is compulsory. He says, no, it is 90%. And believe me, at the time when I was talking to him, we had election in Tripura a week before that, and Tripura gave us 93% voter turnout by persuasion, by love, by voter education. Now, our voter education has been a game changer. And from 2010 Bihar election onward, every election has given us the highest turnout in history, and which is what I would call festival of democracy. In fact, there was one journalist lady who wrote a piece in Hindustan Times questioning and saying the same thing, that festival of democracy has been replaced by the silence of the graveyard. I wrote a counter article in the same paper 3 days later. I said, madam, you please give me your address and I will send the festival to your house. Then don't complain. And what will the festival do? They will come and paint your house with their slogans. They will paste their posters, and there will be 24/7 loudspeakers blaring outside your house. If that is the festival you're missing, I'll send it to you. So to tell you. Now, the people have demonstrated that festival is participation, and every successive election has given us the highest turnout in history. We introduced National Voters' Day, simple, and it was born in a civil society meeting in Bhubaneswar. When somebody from the audience raised his hand and he said 18 years is an age which we should celebrate. I said, that's a very good statement. Let us think of a celebration. And within a week, we developed this National Voters' Day, which is, by the way, coming next week, 25th of January, where we said we will identify the people who will become eligible on the 1st of January from October onwards, beforehand. So that as soon as the calendar changes, by the 5th of January, we will have our electoral rolls ready to be notified. And on 25th January, we organized 8 lakh functions at the booth level to give these new voters their vote. Now, a celebration of this kind is unthinkable. When we launched it in the presence of 35 chief election commissioners over the world, they were taken aback. In fact, allow me one extra minute. I wrote to the cabinet secretary a routine letter of courtesy in October of that year, 2010, that we are going to celebrate National Voters' Day and we will have 800,000 functions. Please ask all the states and the ministries to extend cooperation. And I forgot all about this letter. Now, October, November, December gone. On the 19th of January, just 6 days before the day, I get a call from Mr. Cabinet Secretary, Mr. Chandrasekhar was the Cabinet Secretary. He said, Qureshi, your letter, your proposal for National Voters' Day is coming before the Cabinet today. When he used the word proposal, my heart sank. I said, damn it, I've almost implemented it. I'm all ready for implementation. You're still calling it proposal. And what if it is rejected? He says, you have to answer 2 questions. I said, what? He says, number 1, do you want a national holiday? And secondly, how much money do you need? I said, I don't want a holiday and I don't need a single rupee. He says, what? Are you mad? You're saying that you will organize 8 lakh functions and you don't want a single rupee? He says, no, I'm not mad and I know what I'm talking about. I will organize all that. I already have money to register voters, which I do around the year. I'm just converting a normal routine annual around the year activity into an event. An event creates a lot of impact. I'll use the same money. This must be the only proposal in India's history which was passed in the cabinet without a cabinet memorandum, because of its simplicity. No finance, no legal implication, and it has worked so well. The other countries who were present, they were taken aback. Such an impactful event and no money. I'm very happy to say 7 countries of the world, including Pakistan, Nepal, South Korea, and others, have already introduced the National Voters' Day because the idea was so simple. Now, having said all the nice things, there are certain things which are still troubling us. And Mr. Ravi referred to at least one of them, the money power. I will add also the crime. Now, the crime had 2 dimensions. One, the crime, the murders and the violence which used to take place on the day of the election. That, of course, is history after Mr. T.N. Session came down heavily. We have done away with that crime. Although criminals contesting election and getting elected, that is beyond us because the disqualification has to be done by Parliament, which is a standing issue, separate issue. Now, money power. Initially, when I set up Expenditure Monitoring Division, And our Tamil Nadu election 2011, we had the first experience. It was very, very good. We seized hundreds of crores all over. But a book which I had written, an undocumented wonder, the making of the great Indian election. In this, there is a chapter on money power in which I have given 40 modus operandi of abuse of money power and cheating. 40 now, which we had discovered till then. Now they would have discovered many more. So money power is something which is perhaps the only unsolved problem. Now, again, Mr. Ravi referred to a couple of problems which we still have. When I was doing my book, I came across Economist Intelligence Review's Index of Democracy, which qualifies the democracies of the world into full-fledged democracies, flawed democracies, hybrid democracies, and authoritarian regime. We were classified as a flawed democracy. As an Indian, I felt very hurt and very sad. Oh, we are a flawed democracy. On one hand, the whole world looks up to our democracy. But then when I studied it, there was no fault with that classification, because the whole world appreciates our election. A great election does not necessarily mean a great democracy. We conduct free and fair elections, and MPs are elected. If 30% of them have criminal cases pending against them, it is beyond us. It is nothing to do with our election management. So that is a part of our flawed democracy. If the representation of women is less than 10%, that is what is keeping us flawed. So the corruption in the governance, that is what is keeping our democracy flawed, which is beyond election. But this point comes out very loud and clear that great election, for sure, we get 9.7 out of 10 rating. But in other things, we are down, and we have been unfortunately slipping. Now, what reform? We need to, of course, we have to keep on learning, we have to keep on improving, and I finish on that. Although about 50 electoral reform proposals are pending with the government, but I would say if we do only 4, we will be doing a great service to the nation. First of all, the root and the fulcrum of the entire democratic election commission itself. The fact that questions are being raised about the neutrality and non-partisanship of election commission is a matter of great concern. So our appointment system and our removal system should be made foolproof. So that is the one reform which has been pending for a long time. It's a pity that the strongest, the most powerful election commission in the world has the most defective system of appointment of election commissioner. We are just appointed by the government of the day. I was also a beneficiary of the system. The Prime Minister of the day appointed me. But even as CEC, believe me, even as CEC, I used to say that I would have felt stronger if leader of opposition had also signed my appointment letter, because we have to be above all kinds of parties and politics. So that system, that can easily be introduced. But which government wants to give up its power? The same party which used to demand that there should be the electoral college for appointment of election commissioner, they've forgotten about it. Now, in the national interest, we are not unfamiliar with the collegium system. Even the CIC and the CVC, which are not even constitutional bodies, mind you, they are appointed by collegium. Director of CBI is not even an institution, he is just head of a government department, like a Department of Agriculture, so or Animal Husbandry. So Director CBI has a collegium. Why? And Election Commission of India doesn't have a collegium. So that is one flaw which needs to be addressed immediately. Similarly, removal. My recommendation is, Mr. Ravi, particularly for your kind consideration, that at the moment the protection is granted only to the CEC. But this is a historical fact, because at the time when in 1950, when the institution was created, the Election Commission was only one man, the CEC, and he could not be removed. Now Election Commission is 3 people from 1993. So the removal protection has to be to the entire institution of 3 rather than just to the CEC. You know what happens here? I'm telling you from my experience. That the other two commissioners who do not enjoy the protection, they feel they are probationers. They are on probation. They are always looking over the shoulder. Oh, is the government happy with me? Will they elevate me? Will I be elevated? And I used to tell my junior, don't worry. No government has the guts to bypass you. But there is no law. Government could bypass the seniority any time. Now, hope is never a strategy. We have to have institutional check. Therefore, institutional check is that the election commissioner should be appointed by collegium and elevation to CEC should be by seniority, as happens in the case of judges. So, what is rocket science in it? It's simple. Second is debark people against whom serious criminal cases, heinous offences of rape, dacoity, murder, and kidnapping are pending. That is what we have been demanding all these years. But they say now again, Mr. Ravi is a legal expertise. The Indian law is that there is presumption of innocence. You are innocent till proved guilty, no doubt about it. But I have a counter question which nobody has ever been able to answer, although in my audiences there have been judges and senior juries. And my question is that in today's jails, today we have 4 lakh prisoners, of which 2,70,000, 70% are under trial, which means they are innocent because not yet convicted. Yet, 4 of their fundamental rights have been taken away. Right to liberty, freedom of movement, freedom of occupation, right to dignity. Now, and right to vote, now which is not a fundamental right, but right to dignity. Now, 4 fundamental rights of innocent people have been taken away within the ambit of law. Now, right to contest is not even a fundamental right. What if it is suspended? So, therefore, what presumption of innocence are they talking about when we have no answer to this situation? So, barring criminals from contesting is important. Do you know the number has gone up in the last 4 elections? 2004 election, we had 128 MPs with who on their own sworn affidavit. Their affidavit, I'm not alleging. They gave a sworn affidavit that they have criminal cases against them. It went up to 162 in the next election, then 182, and now in the last election, 233. More than 40% of criminal cases. And what do you expect? Internationally, when I'm asked this question, I feel embarrassed and I don't have the answer. Third issue is money power. Where state funding of election was mentioned, it has been mentioned many, many times. But I have written several articles on this saying that state funding of elections perhaps will not be the answer. It will be impossible to manage. But state funding of political parties based on actual election should be attempted. And because your voting figures cannot be manipulated. If you've got 100 votes, you've got 100 votes. I have calculated that if 100 rupees are given to every candidate or the party, then it will, last general election, 60 crore votes were cast. At 100 rupees, 6,000 crores. So I'm happy that 6,000 crores are given to candidates or political parties based on the performance, which cannot be manipulated. Now, whether 600,000 crores will be enough? Yes, it will be enough. How do I say that? Because all the parties together, their 5-year collection of funds through legal and illegal means and arm twisting is only 5,000 crores. If 5,000 crores is all that they're collecting, and we are giving them 6,000 crores by dignity, by check, and then banning all private donation, no corporate donation. And since the state is funding, then CAG is audit. They don't want CAG audit, they want their own party cadres to be auditing their account and whitewashing. And finally, internal democracy. We should insist on that because that is one reason why state funding has been deferred, because Indrajit Gupta committee in 1999 had said that state funding should be attempted provided there is internal democracy. That provided has never happened. Therefore, state funding has not been attempted. But internal democracy, we should come down heavily on that. The party which does not conduct election, it should have heavy fines, which should be increased by the week. I think if at least these four reforms are attempted, we will have every reason to be proud of. Now, particularly after the US election fiasco, India's democracy is under a limelight. The whole world is looking at our democracy, and we should improve it further so that for the larger democracy become the greatest democracy on earth. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. Such a wonderful feast to hear from you. Election is the foundation of democracy, and you have rightly stated that is not the end. That's the starting of the process, and we need to set several things right to work the democracy in the country. You have very candidly explained with the help of your experience and the great initiatives that you have taken in the process of strengthening the election process, and that will ultimately help the democratic system in the country. And you have also very rightly, with the 4 examples of reforms, you have explained how we need to relook at the electoral system here in the country. Thank you very much, sir. Very grateful to you for sharing this very important views. And I really honestly believe that if we are able to implement these solutions that you have given, we will really see the festival of democracy, as you have pointed out. Already you have made it possible, and still we can have many more successes in the democracy. And it's I am very happy to say that the people have great expectations and a great faith in the Election Commission, and it is only because of people like you. Thank you. Thanks a lot for such a wonderful talk. And all 3 of you have given very important inputs for the democracy and its values. In addition to the small group that we have in the webinar here, and this program is being live streamed through Facebook. Several hundreds of people are watching it. I hope that all of them will benefit out of the views shared here. Thank you very much to all the 3 distinguished speakers who shared their views here today. Now I move on to Sri S. Anand Reddy to propose vote of thanks. Thank you, sir. Mr. Anand Reddy, the floor is yours.
Sorry, I did not realize that I was muted.
Okay, please.
Qureshi ji, Ravi ji, Dilip Reddy garu, Pushpa Kumar ji, and distinguished guests. It's an honor for me to share the platform with such eminent persons on behalf of S. Jaipal Reddy Memorial Foundation. S. Jaipal Reddy Memorial Foundation has been set up with the express purpose of promoting values and ideal during his life. On behalf of the foundation, I thank Sri Qureshi ji, Sri Ravi ji, Dilip Reddy garu, and Pushpa Kumar ji for taking time off their busy schedule to speak about celebrating democracy on the occasion of my father's 79th birthday, and the distinguished audience for showing such keen interest in the topic. Dilip Reddy garu has enlightened us about something which I have learnt. It's a new thing I learned today, is that even in ancient times, democratic processes were used in the form of gathering public opinion to deliver good governance. It's a point that I will remember, Dilip Reddy garu. Ravi sir has reiterated the importance of electoral integrity, respect for individual rights, free speech, and the need for spirit of tolerance and mutual respect for democracy to thrive. There is no disputing, no doubting that, sir, and thank you for reiterating very fundamental aspects that are fundamental conditions that need to be in place for democracy to thrive. And Qureshi ji, thank you for sharing your long experience and the effort you have spent and the time you spent learning about the electoral process, the limitations of our process. And I'm happy that you have stamped to put down the festival of democracy and made it, prevented the unruly way in our election was being conducted. And you had, sir, highlighted that there are 4 ways to improve our electoral process, and you said that these are the only way we can improve our democracy better. And you said that, I think in the context of flawed democracy, these are the necessary things that need to be addressed. And thank you for sharing, sir. And Pushpa Kumarji, thank you very much for your time, and thank you for moderating the whole event, and thank you everyone for attending the event. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. It's such a wonderful program today to think collectively about the democracy and celebrating democracy on the occasion of the birth anniversary of Sri late Jaipal Reddy sir. I once again thank all the distinguished speakers, the distinguished participants, the family and friends who have organized this and shared the views. Thanks a lot, sir. We'll always be grateful to you. Yes.
Thank you very much, sir.
Bye. We'll wind up now. Thanks a lot.
Yeah.
We'll be in touch.